Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into a really tense situation, the standoff between Iran, Israel, and the United States.
Yeah, it's more than just a rivalry, isn't it?
Absolutely. It feels like this decades-long game power, ideology, survival, and it's getting dangerously close to, well, direct conflict. We've gone through a lot of material trying to figure out how these three players got here, right to the edge, and maybe what's really cranking up the heat now.
That's the core question, really. Our sources highlight how this powder keg, it didn't just appear. It's built up over time.
Right.
Specific moments, specific actions, escalations from everyone involved. So the question for us is, how did those key shifts lead us to where we are right now?
Okay, so let's start at the beginning then.
Yeah.
The big one seems to be the 1979 Islamic Revolution in Iran.
Definitely.
That didn't just change the government, it completely flipped Iran's position, right?
Yeah.
From a solid U.S. ally to, well, an enemy.
An archenemy, really. And you had things like the U.S. Embassy hostage crisis that just, cemented that break dramatically.
So where did Israel fit in back then? Were they immediately aligned against Iran?
Actually, no. Initially, Israel was pretty neutral, but that changed. It changed when Iran started actively funding groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon
Okay.
and Hamas in Gaza. I mean, these groups are openly sworn enemies of Israel.
So that pushed Israel towards the U.S.
Exactly. It solidified that alignment, creating this really clear axis in the Middle East.
And that shift sets the stage for what people call the shadow wars, mostly in the 2000s, 2010s.
That's right, the shadow wars. It's basically covert stuff, proxy fights, trying to hit strategic goals without a full-on war.
How did that play out?
Well, you saw Iran arming its allies, its proxies, all over the place: Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Gaza. But it wasn't just one way.
Sorry.
Israel pushed back with its own clandestine operations. Things like reportedly assassinating Iranian nuclear scientists.
And the U.S. role during this?
Massive sanctions, really crushing ones. And then controversially pulling out of the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. The accusation was that Tehran wasn't being straight.
And Iran's reaction?
They reacted, started enriching uranium again up to levels like, 60%?
Yeah.
Far past what the deal allowed, and that's alarmingly close to weapons-grade material.
So it's like this constant push and pull, mostly behind the scenes, but getting riskier.
Exactly. A very calculated, very dangerous dance.
Which seems to have gotten less calculated recently. We've seen these major flashpoints that really shorten the fuse.
Big moments.
Like the 2020 U.S. drone strike that killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. Huge deal.
Huge.
Then, between 2021 and 2023, Israel hitting Iranian weapons depots in Syria and Lebanon again and again.
Repeatedly, yes.
And then, of course, the October 2023 Hamas attack on Israel. That just sent shockwaves everywhere. How did that change the immediate picture?
It broadened everything almost instantly. Iran-backed groups started hitting U.S. and Israeli targets much more in Iraq, Syria, even the Red Sea.
So the proxy network kicked into high gear.
Right. It showed Iran could and would use that network to retaliate and project power. It definitely pushed the whole region closer to something bigger.
Which brings us right up to now, June 2025. Things feel incredibly fragile, especially after that recent U.S. airstrike inside Iran.
Yeah, that was a major escalation, hitting a high-value target linked to the Quds Force, that's the Revolutionary Guard's external arm. Very significant.
What's the immediate fallout been?
Well, Iran promised severe retaliation, predictably. And Israel went straight to high alert, basically bracing for missile attacks, likely from Iran's allies.
So that one strike, it feels like it moved things out of the shadows.
It really did. It amplified the risk massively, made the whole situation much more overt, much more volatile.
So looking at everything we've discussed, it seems like diplomacy is just failing or fraying badly. Every action gets a bigger reaction.
It feels that way.
And you've got these three powerful players, the Islamic Republic, the Jewish state, the global superpower, essentially, like you said, dancing on the edge of a much wider war. It's a pretty chilling picture.
It is. When you trace it back from 79 through the shadow wars to these direct hits now, it's clear the region is at this incredibly critical point. What was a long game feels very, very immediate now.
Yeah. And that really leaves us and leaves you, the listener, with this stark question that kind of sums it all up.